Testing 1 2 3. Oh, right, my mic. So much to connect. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. All right. We're just about to get started here. Just trying to get everything working together. had the mic off there. But you don't have to spend money on a $3,500 GPU or on a $4,000 GPU. You certainly can you can build the PC for well under that, in fact. And it can easily be done. You just have to know what are the most critical components when it comes to PC building. And I highly suggest looking at the GPU. It's going to be important, but it's going to be, let me see here. It's going to be very important because in order to build your PC, you have to know the most critical part you have to look for is going to be the GPU. You don't have to spend so much money on a $3,500 or $4,000 GPU such as the RTX 5090. Now, if you haven't heard the recent news, our AMD has also going to have announced the RX 5060, but it's kind of a pointless card, and in my personal opinion, because again, you have 8 gigabytes and 16 gigabytes. So it's going to be 8 gigabytes on a 128-bit bus. Excuse me, keep getting these invites. But it's more importantly, you don't want to focus on a card like that. You want to look for something that's at least in the mid-range, such as the like the RTX 5070 or the RX 9070 XT. Those are pretty decent cards. Even higher than that, personally, I would say go RTX 5070 Ti if you choose to go NVIDIA. So right now, for example, what we have here is the Sapphire AMD Radeon 9700 XT. And this is a great card to start off with, especially in a PC build, and you don't have a ton of money to spend on a PC build. In fact, our PC build is going to be well under that. It's going to be about $1,700 to $1,800 for this build. And I'm going to show you all the components that are part of this build. For everyone that's joining in, thank you for joining. I'm Chris Mizo. If you're unfamiliar with who I am, I usually talk about PC and tech. If you like that kind of stuff, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not following or subscribed already, make sure you do. And there is a giveaway that is going on. If you go into my YouTube stream, I have the link in the description box, and from there you can see it. But one of the most critical components when it comes to PC building, once again, is when it comes to AMD's Radeon RX 9070 XT, as an example, is going to be the graphics card. This is a great way to start off, and you want to look for at least 16 gigabytes minimum when it comes to VRAM. Now, the difference between the two when it comes to AMD's and when it comes to NVIDIA's is that you're going to have a different set of memory. So this is going to have G6, and for NVIDIA, they have G7. G7 is going to be faster, but it doesn't always mean it's a lot better. The funny thing is, when it comes to the process nodes, it's going to be quite different. There's on NVIDIA's Blackwell, it's an excellent chip, but the problem is it's very similar to the 40 series. So if you're already coming from that, then you're more than likely familiar that it's not going to be that much of a power difference. Now, if you're just coming into PC building, it's a great way to start is by knowing what type of GPU that you want and your budget, because a GPU like this can cost you like about $770 for the Sapphire Nitro Plus, and that's the top of the line GPU. That's the top of the line for AMD currently. They don't have a 9080 XT on the plans just yet. Wouldn't be surprised if they decide to come out with it later in the year, because AMD has certainly taken up a lot of market share because of it. So one of the most critical components is going to be the GPU. The next thing you want to look for is you have to have a motherboard that is capable enough, same with the CPU. I kind of put them in the same category because they are going to be the one that transfers the speeds from your GPU. So, for example, we have the ASUS B850 here, and this is the TUF Gaming Plus motherboard here. And this is an excellent board. You can spend a little bit over 200 USD on it. And the best part is it's PCI Express 5, unlike the B650. The B650 was only PCI Express 4. You couldn't really take advantage of the speeds. Now, technically, you don't really need the speeds to be that high, but let me see. Oh, hang on, guys. I just have to check this chat. It kicked me out of this. But I see you guys. If you got any questions, let me know. I have to take a sip of coffee real quick while I get this figured out real quick. Sometimes it does this where it ends up kicking out this other chat. Let me see. So right now I'm streaming on YouTube, and I'm also streaming on the phone as well. So it's going to be back and forth. So sorry guys on YouTube. I didn't see you guys yet. Let me see. All right. Hang on, guys. I apologize. I'm not seeing you guys in the chat. And hang on, fellas. I just want to make sure that everyone is seen here. So I just got to go into the streamer bot again. And it seems like some technical difficulties this morning. It was kind of a rough start because I had to hurry up and make sure to get my coffee and everything before. And Micro Center has these decent cups, actually. Take a look at that, Micro Center. They had these cups that they were giving out. And it's from Miami's grand opening. So that was pretty dope of them. All right, let me go back into the chat here. And it seems that, okay, there is an issue here. I apologize for this. I'll be right back. Hang on, fellas. I apologize for any inconvenience, guys. I'm just trying to get everything organized here. Looks like it's finally back into the YouTube chat as well, so I can see you guys in there. Currently I'm on TikTok, Twitch, and I'm on YouTube right now. So let's see. I'm just gonna set it right back, and we should be good to go. Let's see. There we go. Now we're good to go, right? Now you guys can see me. But I'm Chris Mizo. If you're unfamiliar with who I am, I usually talk about PCs and tech. Welcome to this channel or into this video to this stream because we're here to talk about PC building, such as the ASUS Tough Gaming B850 Plus Gaming Plus motherboard. The nice thing about it, it does feature PCI Express 5. It's certainly one of the better motherboards you can get, especially if you are on a tight budget. And you can take advantage of either a RX 9070 XT, or you can take advantage of the RTX 50 series if you choose to go that route. NVIDIA has announced their RTX 5060. I'm sure you guys have seen it. And more interestingly enough, it's only about 8 gigabytes. It runs on a 128-bit bus. It is G7, so you can take advantage of those speeds. But again, the VRAM is what limits the card, and that's a big issue. And you're spending $300 on a card that isn't as powerful or isn't going to perform as well as you want because they took away PhysX, they took away DirectX 9. So you can't play games such as New Vegas, or you can't play games such as Mirror's Edge because it doesn't have that capability. So you are very limited when you do come with the 50 series. Luckily, AMD still does support PhysX and DirectX 9, so you'll be able to play those type of games if you are into those type of older games such as that. But the B850 is a great board, and it does feature Wi-Fi 7, it does have Bluetooth, and it does have Quick Connect. It does have all those features that you are looking for, mainly when it comes to a motherboard. And most importantly, it is an AM5 board where you can put a 9950 X3D if you wanted to. But it's, again, that wouldn't be necessary, especially if you're just doing a PC build that is built for gaming. If you are more into streaming and gaming, then I would say it's a good idea to go 9950 X3D because then you can multitask. You could also do it on the 9800 X3D. You just need multi-processors in order to do so. Now, if you're just doing it for strictly gaming, you just want it for personal use, and I would recommend getting a smaller processor. Even the 9800 X3D would be the top of the line when it comes to gaming, just strictly gaming, or you can go with any of the 9000 series or the 7000 series. They would all be great cards too. I mean, not cards, but great processors, such as the 9600X. We picked this up at Micro Center for a great deal. We ended up getting it for less than $220, I think it was, but it wasn't that much to get it. And that's a great way to start a PC build because the main components again are going to be the graphics card first off when it comes to having a PC build. The second most important part is going to be the processor and the motherboard. I put them in about the same tier. And also what's really important is the power supply. Then it comes to the RAM and everything else, which I will explain shortly. But a 9600X would be sufficient enough for a lot of gamers out there, especially because a lot of the power that you're going to really get and pull from is really from the graphics card. The CPU will certainly help you get frames, but it's not going to be a ton of different frames, or not really that much of a gap in frames if you choose to go with a lower end CPU. That wouldn't be an issue. Also, what is also important is to get a decent SSD for your build. Get at least PCI Express 4. You don't need to get PCI Express 5. If you saw Samsung's Pro 9100, it is quite insane, the pricing for it. The 9100 is about 480 USD, and that is just as you could buy 5 SSDs for that because you can easily get a PCI Express 4 with 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes or however you choose, and it will still be a ton cheaper. In fact, the Crucial P3 Plus that we chose to pick up, it was only $62.99 when we went to go pick it up at Micro Center. And that's all you really need because currently the games don't run on direct storage. So you don't really need the high speed or the high capacity in order to be able to game with a SSD because it's not really going to draw as much speeds from it until Microsoft implements DirectX storage or direct storage. Then it would be something to take advantage of. Also, What is also another overlooked component when it comes to PC building, and what is also important, is going to be the power supply, which we ended up going to Micro Center the other day. We all got together to try to figure out exactly what type of power supply that we were to get. And let me see. Sorry about this, guys. I'm just trying to get this. I'm not sure if the chat is still connected. Hang on. Because right now I'm just trying to make sure this, it's a little bit odd because I'm not seeing anything yet. There might be a conflict here. So I'm just going to go into it manually so I can see all of you guys in the live. Let's see here. I apologize if anyone has said anything, but I haven't. All right, there we go. Let me see if I go into the studio here. So feel free to ask any questions, especially everybody out there that wants to know about PC building. Please let me know, and I'll answer them. Are you coming from a console and you're curious about PC building, or are you into and I'm just going to run a quick test here just to make sure we got it running. So right now I'm on the PC right now, just making sure that the stream's all good to go. And got to make sure to have some coffee. Make sure you have something to drink with you because we could get into depth. We can talk about PCs however long that you would like. If you're trying to get any type of if you're trying to get a PC build going, let me know. And if you are unfamiliar with my channel, make sure you if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I'm Chris Mizo. I usually talk about PCs and tech. I look a bit crazy today because there we go. That's what I was looking for. My hat. That'll be a lot better because then I won't have my hair all over the place. And you guys are probably more used to seeing me like this anyway. So when it comes to PCs and tech, just feel free to ask any questions, especially if you are looking to do a PC build. And okay, so it did go through. Perfect. All right. Just had to make sure. All right. We're going to focus on what we need to do. We're going to focus on exactly what we need to do with this PC build. And I'm going to show you all the components that we have so far for it. And it's going to be quite exciting. I'll start off with the processor, which is the AMD Ryzen 9600X. And the good thing about this processor, it's not going to cost a lot of money when you do purchase it. It's a great way to start a PC build because you could always end up upgrading your processor later down the line, which is the great part about when it comes to PC building. When it comes to the processor, what you really want to look for in a gaming CPU such as this one is that you just want to have high single core speeds mostly. It's nice to have it's nice to have multi-cores, and if you do, you can take advantage of them, but it's not going to take advantage of it as much as when it is comes to gaming. Now, if you do gaming and streaming, that's going to be a little bit different. You could get away with doing it on, say, a 9800 X3D. That would take advantage of those capabilities. But if they came out, say, with the 9600 X3D, I wouldn't recommend it. Or if they have the 9950 X3D, which is the high end, that would be the best you can do when it comes to gaming. So if you were to game and stream, or if you are into content creation, it's a good way to start that. But here we have the SSD, which is the P3 Plus. And the P3 Plus is also a great way to have great start to your system as well. It's not that expensive. Again, we ended up picking it up on sale. We got it for $62.99. And luckily, Micro Center was there to help us, because a lot of the times when you go to a lot of other retailers, they're going to be a little bit tough to try to figure out deals. But Micro Center is the kind of place that's always willing to help you if you're not sure where to look for the deals. And most importantly, when it comes to SSD speeds, they don't matter as much when it comes to gaming, because we still don't take full advantage of it because of direct storage. Until Microsoft implements that, then we could take advantage of those speeds when it comes to gaming and when it also comes to, say, streaming. Now, if you are a content creator or you use it for graphic design, there are some benefits to have a higher speed NVMe with PCI Express 5, such as the Samsung 9100 Pro. Now, it is a bit more expensive. It's going to be quite costly. In fact, I was at Micro Center the other day for all those who were part of that stream, saw how expensive it really could be to purchase a 9100. And it's with PCI Express 5 speeds up to 14,000 megabytes per second, which is insane. But it would cost you $479 in order for you to purchase that type of NVMe. It's only 4 terabytes, and so you're paying well over $1 for each gigabyte that's in that SSD. Now, if you were able to, now really, this is only a 1 terabyte. It's only $62.99, and which is a lot cheaper, and it will perform exactly the same as that $479 NVMe. And that's what's important when you are looking for when it comes to a PC build, especially if you don't have a lot to spend. If you don't have a lot to spend, it's good to really focus on more of the critical components. Hey, I just built that PC I spoke about a few days. Oh, that's awesome. Honestly, the scariest part was hoping I did not have enough thermal paste. And see, that is everybody's scariest point when it comes to adding the processor, is you have to have decent thermal paste. That's a great point, actually. Speaking of thermal paste, I got some here inside my drawer, which I can show you guys. And what he's talking about is this. Now, there's multiple brands that you can get when it comes to thermal paste, but here's a few. Now, this is Artic Silver 5, which is a great thermal paste to use. It's an awesome one of my personal favorites. And we also have the MX4 thermal compound. This is also a great one to use for when it comes to processors. Or if you choose to upgrade the GPU's thermal paste, you can always do that. You can just pop out the GPU AIB and kind of put the paste on there, because a lot of times they put the cheapest thermal paste in there if you want to get better temperatures. And a lot of people don't really do that too much, but it's a good idea to do it just in case, if you want to make sure to really get cool temperatures when it comes to gaming on your GPU. Also, here goes another one. This is kind of like a generic one that Corsair gives you, I believe it is. Or yeah, they give you the bare minimum amount like that. And this is something I don't recommend on getting because of that. It's just bare minimal. You don't want to do that. But I'm glad that AC got his PC built. Have you done any benchmarking, AC? I gotta know, because I gotta know what type of games that you are playing on your PC build. I'm happy to hear that. Also, a great part in addition when it comes to PC building is also your motherboard. That's what really complements your system. Because really think about it, everything that you put, the RAM, the GPU, your CPU, all your components really goes to the motherboard. So it's good to have a decent motherboard in order to do so. You don't have to get a $1,000 motherboard. It's just insane. You're not going to, most people aren't going to be overclocking like that, not trying to break records, because then if you are, then go for the $1,000 motherboard. But if you're not, and you're just trying to game and you're just trying to stream, you could easily get something like this, which is the ASUS B850 motherboard here, which is the B850 plus Wi-Fi. It does have Wi-Fi 7, and it's only a little bit over $200. Welcome, Dave S. I use the supplied Noctua thermal paste. Idle temps are 44 Celsius, but I don't see much over 55 Celsius in use. That's great. Noctua's thermal paste, I gotta say, is more respectable. And I feel like they have a lot more care when it comes to their products. They're one of the only companies that don't really feature any RGBs. Idle temps for me are about 30 Celsius. That's excellent. I've ran Stalker 2 for about 5 hours. The highest CPU temperature that I received was 50 Celsius, and the GPU didn't even get hot enough to turn on the intake fans. So that is excellent when it comes to you. You certainly did excellent when it comes to your build. It sounds like you have great flow. That's also important, is the airflow into your PC case. You don't want to get a PC case where it's enclosed everything. You've probably seen a lot of nice cases that are full of glass. But the problem is when it comes to a PC case, when it's full of glass, is the intake. Where is the air going to flow? And if you have a PC where you have a ton of airflow, you want to look for ones that are mostly ventilated. You want to look for, if you really care about temperatures, you want to look for a lot of vents, whether it's in the front, the top, the bottom. It needs to be ventilated. A lot of cheaper cases, if you look at them, or a lot of cases that you have to really be careful of, which are the really nice glass cases, some of them could really be just trapping the heat. And if you trap the heat, that could really damage your components over time. You may not realize it right away unless you're tracking your temperatures, because ideal temperatures will reach different areas in say the 7000 series or the 9000 series, and definitely the 5000 series is a big difference because of the wattage difference. And I'm currently running about 5 fans, and I'm going to be 6. I would say so. AC, that's a good thing to do. If you're running 5 fans, that's actually really good. If you do plan on getting 6, I would suggest doing 4 intake and 3 exhaust, because the reason being, I mean, 4 intake and 2 exhaust if you're going to go 6 fans. Because the reason why I say that is because you will certainly see better temperatures doing so. You want to have more airflow coming in than going out, if that makes sense. Because otherwise you don't want the air to stagnate inside of your PC build. And just, you could experiment with it. You could try it out. You could grab something like an incense stick or something with smoke that you have, like a vape. You could put that up to your PC just to get an idea of how the airflow is looking. And I wouldn't really suggest like going really heavy on the vape products and putting it through a PC, because you don't want moisture to go inside. So I'd say it's probably better to go with like an incense stick. And yeah, see, Dave S has definitely a great idea. 6 intake and 2 exhaust, and that's what you want. You want to have more intake and then exhaust, because when it comes to the exhaust side, you don't want the air again to stagnate. Otherwise, there's no real airflow. It'll just become stale. And that is important. You want to get more air coming into the PC, more cool air than the PC actually blowing out the air, if that makes sense. But when it comes to the motherboard, once again, you don't have to go crazy. You can easily get a gaming motherboard for on the cheap. You could get an ASUS B850 motherboard here, again, which has PCI Express 5, unlike the older ones. You're also doing an air-cooled CPU. If air-cooled is an excellent way to do it. The air-cooled CPU, it's the Noctua one that you probably have, right? I believe it is, because Noctua has some of the best products. Now, since we're all talking about CPU coolers and everything, I'll actually show you the one that I currently have for this build, because we have everything that we need for it. It's not really going to require too much of this build. All I have to do is check the cables, make sure we have enough cables and wire ties. That's also important. Those are some extra items to think about to have when you do your PC build. Make sure to have the proper tools. Mostly a lot of PC tools, you don't really need them as much when it comes to a PC build, because of a lot of them are more toolless and toolless each day, which is nice. So when you install PCI Express NVMe, most of the time you don't even need a screwdriver anymore. Same thing when it comes into the graphics card. You don't really need to screw it in besides the bracket on the back. There's a lot of components that you don't really have to unless it's like the motherboard. It's just like kind of like plug and play, similar to how it is with Legos. They just kind of connect with each other, which is nice. Now with my case mount, I only have 2 front, 1 back, 2 up, and 1 on the bottom. Yes, and the D18 air coolers. So with your case mount, you can certainly do it. If your temperatures are cool enough, I would just say stick with that setup. Or you can always upgrade your fans. You want better fans, that's always a recommendation instead of using the case fans that it comes with. Now, if you're on a budget, it's okay to start with the case fans. More than likely it'll stay cool, and typically you can get some case fans for really cheap. They're not as expensive. The D18S air cooler is excellent. That's a good one, Dave. And I'll show you the CPU cooler that we have. So his priority that he's talking about is that he has a air cooler that is just straight air. It's very simple to install. You typically just have a bracket on the back of the motherboard or onto the top of the motherboard, depending on the type of processor that you're using. And then it's just like a fan that connects onto it. So it kind of just mounts onto the top and it keeps it air cooled. Usually a lot of air coolers will be a lot taller because it has a big fan in there to help that CPU stay cool. I actually have like an intake and an outtake, or exhaust side for the heat that's dissipating out the CPU. Now, when it comes to some people may prefer AIOs, and what we have for this build. And crap! I'll be right back. Looks like the battery died out. It's been one heck of a morning. All right, let's see here. I'm just changing up my setup now. There we go. You see, I'm doing it off of a camera too, so it's kind of a mess. Seems certainly it's better to do it off of a USB-C cable, because at least the USB-C cables, they provide power delivery. So luckily for those on TikTok, can currently see what's going on. Trying to recover the stream now. All right, guys. Let's see. There we go. Whew. I apologize for that, everybody. Hopefully the stream is still alive. Got disconnected there real quick. Let's see. Let's try that again. So make sure to have a full battery, guys, when you do a stream, because otherwise it'll just die out on you. Especially if you're filming from a DLS, a mirrorless camera. Yes, I am back, Dave. I apologize about that. Looks like the battery died down on me. And right now I'm just working on getting it connected. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just do this instead. So just give me a moment, guys. Just got to get this remounted. What's up, Michael Jackson? Good to see you. All right. Motor's on. Perfect. Whew. What a morning it has been, guys. It's been a crazy morning. Whew. Trying to get this stream set up. Running a little bit late. More than I would like to have everything set up anyway. But sometimes it just seems simple that you would think just turning on the camera would just suffice, but sometimes it doesn't. Hang on, guys. I'll get more clear here. And what's up with my autofocus? There we go. Am I on autofocus? All right, I'll just lock it into me. Perfect. You guys good now? Everybody good? Perfect. What a morning. I hope everyone had their coffee. I didn't have enough coffee, so now I'm kind of a mess right now. So make sure to get some coffee. Got mine from a Micro Center cup, which was pretty dope. This is what I was talking about to you guys. There we go. Now we're good to go. Refocus. All right, guys. So we were just talking about CPU coolers, and with CPU coolers, what we have is the Prime LC 360, which is the ASUS cooler right here. It's an excellent cooler to have, and this is AIO style. And AIO style is a little bit different from the fan cool style, which is something that will, this requires a little bit more of a setup. It's running through a closed loop. You don't have to add any water or anything to it. Everything is all provided inside. So if you see those that have it, say, water cooled, you could have an easy setup just like this. You could have like a water cooled CPU. And that's what AIO really is. It's just a closed loop, but you can't really change out the different liquids that's inside of the radiator. Now, you can choose to go this style. It's a little bit more expensive. Typically, they're like, for this one, it's like 100 and I think 50 it was. So this one's on the lower side of the more expensive AIOs. But if you go to certain fan coolers, you can certainly get them for under $100. So, but if you want the AIO, this one has the LCD screen and everything that you might seen, which some might prefer. And you could set your custom type of lighting. You can see the reflection. That's the PC. That's right behind. But you can choose to go that route. You can set your RGB lighting, and it throws in an additional 3 fans into your PC build. Now, this is more dedicated for, like, you could use this for either intake or you could use it for exhaust. It's completely up to you. I've done both, and I haven't really seen a difference between the two. So it's really all about preference. It depends on what you would prefer to do when it comes to your PC build. All right. And everyone's favorite part, the GPU. Just like what we have here, the RX 9070 XT. Hopefully you tuned in for that unboxing. There I show a lot more details about what this GPU does feature. Soon we'll be able to install it into the build and see what type of benchmarks that we can get out of it. This build is approximately not going to be that expensive. It should be around the $1,700 to $1,800 range. Now you could even go cheaper if you wanted to. You could cheapen out on some components if you would like. And if you do, such as the CPU cooler, you could get just the air-cooled one, and you can always upgrade later, like at AIO. Yes, it's a beast GPU. Definitely excited to try it out. It's the best thing is like how much care that Sapphire does really have when it comes to their packaging. When Sapphire does the packaging, they just provide everything that you need. And the build construction is just excellent. You don't ever have to worry about it, like any type of imperfections, because anytime I purchase from Sapphire, I never worry about it. If you're wondering about the specifications, what it comes with, it's about 3.06 gigahertz when it comes to their boost clock. Their gain clock's about a little bit over 2.7 gigahertz. It's also about 16 gigabytes of VRAM. It is G6. It runs on a 256-bit bus. So it's quite going to be an amazing product. And I'm sure the temperatures will be very cool. Now, if you compare the reason why it's also going to be cool, say compared to like RTX 50 series. The RTX 50 series requires a lot more wattage, hence why there's a lot more heat. Sure, you might be able to get more power out of it on some occasions, but the issue is, say you do get more power out of the RTX 50 series, it's being less power efficient, and you're using a lot more of your PC's resources because of it, so you have to have a decent power supply in order to power a NVIDIA RTX 50 series card, compared to something like this, where it only requires up to a 750 watt power supply at the minimum. So if you have a 750 watt power supply, you'll be good enough. But you don't want to stop just at the minimum. You want to have a little bit that's more above par. So you want to get something that's at least, say, 150 watts, maybe 1,000 watts, because you will always end up upgrading your components. It's just how the PC world is. Maybe you want to throw in an extra NVMe. Maybe you want to throw in some extra parts in there. Let me see. All right, so right now I'm just gonna check my Social Blade here because it looks like they're all right. Exit out of this. There we go. It's funny because now yearly power cost was a consideration when I made my build, and that's an excellent point that Dave has brought up. He said that it was a considerable part when he went with his 9700X. You want to have a decent power supply in order to do so, and there's different power ratings, which I will explain shortly. And when we actually went to Micro Center the other day, we went there on a Thursday. We went there a couple days ago, and we had to decide on what type of power supply that we were going to pick out. Now, this makes it a little bit harder, especially when you want to do a budget build. Now, when you do a budget build, you want to look for a power supply, whether it is to save you more energy, or would you rather save on cost? If you save on your original cost, maybe it's going to work a little bit better that way for a little bit, because it'll save you temporarily, and you might save say $50 or $60. But when you choose your power supply, you want to look for power efficiency as well. And that will also save you on your electrical bill. Let's see. There we go. And let me just restart this and make sure that we're all good here. There we go. Activate source. Sign in. Perfect. All right, I'm just making sure that the chat can see, because it seems like the social stream's kind of acting a little bit weird, and hopefully it will pick up on both of the streams there. But okay, so going back to power efficiency, and when it comes to power supplies, such as the Seasonic Vertex PX1000, that's what we ended up going, and it is quite heavy. But there are some things that you have to look for when it comes to a power supply. Now, this is a little bit of a higher end power supply, and now even though it's a little bit higher end, it's going to be a platinum power supply. Because of that, it's a lot more efficient. They usually have charts that you can look in the back, which I will attempt to show you guys here. And let's see. Like back here is something you want to look for. 80 plus gold is minimum. Hopefully you're getting to close to 90% efficient. That is important because the way they rate power supplies is through this system, and what Dave is talking about is this here. Right there. And you see how it's rated. This one's rated at platinum. And platinum would be considered the highest tier one. Then you have gold that's right under it. Then right under gold is silver, and then you also have bronze. Bronze is usually the cheaper ones. most companies, say like HP, Dell, a lot of those companies will choose to go with a bronze power supply, and it will be the most minimal power supply that they will throw in there. If the PC's rated at say 400 or 500 watts, that's what type of power supply that they will throw in there, usually in pre-builds. But if you're building your own PC, you know you can reach for higher expectations, and you can also save on energy cost if you choose to. Now, what I mean by choose to is by, again, the power rating. Now, what the power rating is the lower the power rating, say the bronze, will be about 80% power efficient. And then once you go silver, it goes to like 83% power efficient, and so on. You get the idea. So depending on the type of power supply that you have, you can certainly get more energy efficiency, especially if you're looking to save on your electrical bill. You'd be surprised how efficient a PC really can be. And on the back here, I will show you the chart. And just like this, you'll see something like this. You want to take a look at that when it comes to every PC, every type of power supply, just to get an idea of what it is. What's up, Annie? So for example, this power supply, what this chart means is about a 10 to 20% power efficiency for this platinum power supply. It will reach about 95% efficiency, which is a lot. Close to 95% efficiency until it reaches all the way to about I'd say 60 to 70% on the chart. From there, it'll naturally drop because more of the resources are being used on the PC. When that happens, when more of the resources are being used on the PC, then such as gaming, or if you're streaming, or if you're doing something like content creation, then it will take a lot more energy out the PSU. When it does, this will become at the minimum 90% efficient, which is really good. So at 100% usage, when the PC is at 100% usage, then it's going to be at 90% efficiency. All right, so let me put that to the side here. And also, before I put this away, another thing that's really good to take a look at is back here is going to be what type of amperage that you have. And that's something that's usually overlooked too. You want to see what type of amperage this has. This has about 83 amps when it comes to the 12 volt, which is very important, especially if you're looking to power up, say, a RTX 50 series. If you are, you want to take a look at it. What's up, JW Cruz? Good to see you. Welcome to the live stream. For everyone that's just joining in, I'm Chris Mizo. It's been a crazy morning for whoever's been with me since the morning. I'm trying to drink enough coffee to keep me alert here because it's been quite the mess. Trying out a new setup, sort of, but once I went to my PC, I noticed I had all these updates for all these different chat overlays and stream overlays, so it doesn't seem to be working 100%, but at the most part, at least it is working. Hey, quick question. I'm doing a new build and I have a 9800 X3D and I don't know what motherboard to get. I was thinking of the MSI Carbon, which is about $500. That's a great question, Annie, because if you're thinking of using a 9800 X3D, are you using it strictly for gaming? And if you are, then, or are you thinking of streaming? I'm assuming you're thinking of streaming too because you're on Twitch here. And if you're on Twitch, that would actually be an excellent board to get. I always recommend either the MSI Carbon is a great motherboard. Even ASUS motherboards are great too. The Tai Chi's are great. I always recommend ASUS's gaming motherboard, which is excellent. That's also okay, gaming. So yeah, that is a great, yeah. So I would say either one of those would be great, JW. Because if you're going with just gaming strictly, you could even go with a B850. Even a B850 is good enough. And if you're going B850, just as I mentioned, you could go B850 Plus, Gaming Plus, which is just a little bit over 200. If you're looking to get more benefits out of it, say like you're trying to get 10 gigabits of power, 10 gigabits of Ethernet connection, then that's always something to consider. What's a good 750 watt power supply? The Gigabyte AORUS Elite or Pro? I would say the Elite. Elite is definitely the better one to go for sure. JW. I would say if you're thinking of Gigabyte, I'd say Elite. Now, when it comes to power supply, a good 750 watt power supply, a lot of companies are really good. Now, it just depends on the power rating, as we just mentioned. If you missed the whole power rating side, I would say this company here, Seasonic, is actually very reputable. It'll look something like this. Let me go here and here. I'm streaming off the two devices here. So if you're wondering why I'm pointing at two different things, I'm streaming off the camera and off of a phone as well. Seasonic is good. Thermaltake has been excellent. Just be careful when it comes to Thermaltake. The only thing I don't like about Thermaltakes is like once you put a PC to sleep, it's kind of, the fan will kick on, so it's a little noisy, and then it'll quiet down like after about 5 seconds. Corsairs are really good. They're usually pretty silent. You never really hear their power supply often. ASUS, it's not too bad. Theirs isn't too bad as well. Again, Seasonic would have to definitely be on the top for sure. And so when you go to a power supply, if either manufacturer that you choose, just look for the higher rating. Usually they'll have the platinum power capacitors in there. And if they're usually the Japanese power capacitors that are in there, and that's what you really are looking for. And they're usually platinum. That's what I meant. They're platinum capacitors that are in there. And you can take advantage of it because it's more efficient in that sense. And it's also less likely to break down over time. They usually have higher warranties. I know Corsair has 10-year warranties on their power supplies. I know that Seasonic has a 5-year warranty on their power supplies. Most have 5. I think Corsairs went to 10 to try to compete with the rest of the industry when it came to power supplies. So either one is really good. There's some great options. I saw Corsair Shift, which is pretty dope, where you can actually, instead of plugging it in directly back of the power supply, as most manufacturers, the Shift actually does it on the side. So if you have a build that you're trying to hide like certain cables and everything, you can certainly do it like that, where you can plug it onto the side of the power supply, which is the Shift, or you can go with the traditional one, which is say the RM1000 by Corsair. Those are really good as well. You want to look for something that is also with this generation ATX 3 or ATX 3.1, because then it gives you a direct line for a 12 volt high power port, or the 12.2 X16 port, depending on the model that you get. Now, the ATX 3.0s, they give you the 12 volt high power port compared to the 3.1s, where they give you the 12 2X16 port. So it's all, again, personal preference when it comes to power supply. That's what you want to mainly look for when it comes to it. Now, as we spoke about that, getting back to it, just as, let me just pull this back over. Just a reminder here. Also, another thing to look at is you want to look for the different fan controls. And usually they'll offer them here. Like some of them are hybrid. Some of them are even fanless. The fanless ones are really expensive. I have the Antec Signature Titanium 1000 watt made by Seasonic. Yeah, it's funny. Seasonic does a lot of companies. And how are you liking Viali? Are you liking your power supply? I'm sure it's been excellent. And that's something to look for. It's funny because a lot of companies will contact Seasonic in order for them to make their power supplies. So just like Antec, I know ASUS had them for a little bit too. And also another thing is, this is where you would look for it right here. If you're looking for at the power supply here, this is where you would find it, like how you would have the 12 volt high power port, just like if you're trying to do, say, a 50 series. And Also, you want to look at amperage, another overlooked component too. You want to look for something like this where it says 83 amps. Oh, I'm on the wrong side. It'll look something like this. There you go. Oh, a little bit closer there. And it's focusing on my face. I don't think you need to see my face for this one here. There you go. Perfect. But that's what you want to look for. You want to look at those sides. Paid 200 euros, but it's worth it. I bet it is. And it's the best part is that they're silent. A lot of the Seasonic power supplies, they're just like quiet. And that's what you want. You want to have a quiet PC. You don't want to hear the fan kick on. And then it becomes noisy because the fans on the power supplies are a lot larger too, compared to the 120 millimeter fans that we usually have on our cases. And on this build, so another thing is we talked about different thermal paste. Just dropped one. I dropped the garbage thermal paste. I don't really care about that one as much, but let's see. Like this one here. This one is what usually comes with, like when it comes to like Corsair and everything. Oh wait, I just noticed something, guys. All right, there we go. This like came from like Corsair. And these are like the garbage thermal paste, I call it, because they give you the cheapest ones possible. It just to put them on there and for the CPU. What's up, Mohammed? Welcome to the stream. They give you something like this, and this is just a garbage one. It looks like that, just like this. But these ones are garbage. You want to get something that's more like something like the MX4 thermal paste, such as this. These are pretty good. You guys let me know what type of thermal paste that you guys will be doing. Oh, let me drag this here. You guys let me know what type of thermal paste you guys are using. Put it down into the chat. I gotta know. One of my personal favorites that I use is Artic Silver 5. And if you were with me for a lot of builds, this is what I mostly use. This one's a champ. MX6 is great too. You know what's another great contender too in recent days is Thermal Grizzly. Thermal Grizzly has some great, they just like kind of came in out of nowhere really. And they have some great, they have some really good thermal paste too. And there's always different options. You can use thermal pads or you could use the thermal paste. I've always preferred the paste though, just because you have the flexibility and you know it works well. A lot of companies will try to do everything they can to kind of cheapen out. The thermal pads almost look similar to what you would put on an NVMe if you're familiar with it. Usually what it comes with when it comes to a motherboard, it'll be like a little laminate sticker that's on it. You pull it off and you put the thermal paste onto the NVMe. That's what the thermal pads look like. They do have them for CPUs, but I don't really suggest them because I feel that the paste is way better to go. And that's something we could certainly test out for sure. And we could look at the difference when it comes to temperatures. I hope you guys are drinking as much coffee as I am. Oh, what a morning it really has been. So now the thermal paste is, there's all different kinds. There's really, I have to say MX6 is an excellent one. The MX5 is great as well when it comes to Artic Silver 5 is great. This is also great, which is the MX4. As I mentioned, don't use the garbage paste that they give you. Reason being, it's just like a very cheap compound, and it doesn't really keep cool. It's just like a very low-graded ceramic paste when it comes with, say, your AIOs. Usually they'll come with this. Or if you get a fan, sometimes they'll come with this. Now, too, it might actually come with something decent. But most other companies, like say Cooler Master, or if you go with, say, Be Quiet, usually they'll come with a paste like this or pre-applied thermal paste. I don't use it. It's no good. In my personal opinion, don't use it. It's not going to be worth it. It's just going to give you really crappy temperatures, and then you're going to be pretty mad that your PC is still hot. One thing to note though, when you do first do your PC build, and you first put the thermal paste onto the CPU, you're going to notice that the CPU runs hot naturally for a little bit, but give it about 2 days to cure. It's usually like 2 to 3 days to cure, depending on your usage. And then you'll notice your temperatures drop even more. It'll drop significantly because what's happening is the thermal paste is kind of setting in and spreading across your CPU, and the contact is it becomes a lot more cooler because of that. So definitely keep that in mind. Don't worry or don't panic if you see that. Always good to monitor temperatures, and it's always great to stress test your PC, especially after you're finished that build, because you want to make sure you know what is wrong with your PC first, because if there is a problem hardware related, you can take care of the issue right away and you'll have less issue. You won't have to send it in. You can send it back to Micro Center, you can send it back to Newegg, and then just get a new component right away instead of finding out a month later. Then you have to RMA the product, which would suck. So definitely keep that in mind when it comes to the thermal paste, and keep that in mind when it comes to your hardware when you're doing a PC build. So everyone who is just joining in, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, I am talking about PC building. I'm Chris Mizo. I talk about PCs and tech. And what we're going through is we're doing this giveaway currently. And what I'm giving away is, where is it? First, I have to find it. It is hiding somewhere. There it is. Oh, that was also hiding too. So the Samsung 990 Pro, it is in the description box this time. So you can go down to the description box on my YouTube channel in order to find this, and you can be able to be lucky enough to win the 990 Pro, or lucky enough to win some of this wonderful merch that I have. Currently, right now, this stuff is off, like about 40% off in the TikTok shop. I don't have my shirt on today, but this is my dog Jonah. He's out there chilling. I think he got annoyed, so he walked out of the studio because I think he couldn't take the heat from the lights. He's not a big fan of when it comes to the heat. Blah. But anyway, make sure you join the giveaway. It's a big thank you for everyone who is part of the fan bam. Make sure to like this stream and also make sure to subscribe or follow this channel. Now, digging right back into it, have you guys seen the RTX 5060? And what are your thoughts about the 5060 so far? I gotta know what you guys think of it. Do you feel this is a terrible attempt by NVIDIA? Do you think this is just... And by the way, have you guys seen NVIDIA's offer when it came to Denny's? When it comes to this whole, their NVIDIA Bites, it's called. It's their new breakfast that they're featuring at Denny's. It's like, it's I think 96 or something, or 490, something like that. It's something crazy. But NVIDIA and Denny's actually teamed up together. So you can have an NVIDIA breakfast called Breakfast Bites. So it's like a pancake roll, I think, a sausage, and they put syrup in the middle of it. And that's your breakfast at Denny's. I think there's eggs with it. Usually, I'm assuming it's supposed to be like the Grand Slam, but instead it's like rolled up into a pancake. But they are offering that. And one thing I neglected to mention, and also a very important part when it comes to PC building, is the RAM. You gotta have RAM. Your new GPU is the ASUS Prime RX 9. Oh, nice. How do you like it so far? That's a nice GPU. I'm hoping to try to get some more GPUs in here because I've really got to run some tests. I definitely want to do more for sure. I want to do more giveaways and everything. I saw that Jensen said that NVIDIA Bytes, but yeah, there's actually a menu with it. I gotta show you guys when I get the chance. I'll post it up. And I didn't realize how close I was actually to the vertical stream here. And hopefully you guys can see me better. Like, kind of weird for the phone, but I'll just move. There we go. How's that? You can see me better, right? For those who are in the vertical Y. But yes, Jensen was dead serious. He shook the he shook Denny's CEO's hand and everything. And I guess he was at GTC for some reason. I wonder what Denny's is doing at GTC. Maybe they're interested in their AI. Maybe they're going more with AI menus and everything. I could see that happening. But it's funny that they were there. But I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe there's going to be some sort of shift when it comes to Denny's. There's this one Denny's actually in I think it's Denny's. It's Denny's and Burger King. But I think there's a Denny's too. There's a Denny's in Miami where they refuse to sell their land. And it's worth a lot of money. Their land is worth a ton of money. They just refuse to sell it. But there's a Denny's there. So that's pretty funny. Yes, that's what I'm expecting. It wouldn't be a surprise if Denny's comes with some robots. And there'll be robot chefs. I mean, that was something like what he was talking about. Like at CES, you could train these AI robots. You just have to. It's like almost like you put a VR headset. You put this VR headset on, and then you can do like pancakes. You can do like pancake batters and everything, and then you could literally flip pancakes and everything, which is hilarious. So that can certainly happen. That's a great question. Do we have to tip the robots? What do you tip them with? Oh, that's funny. For a minute, I thought Viali was talking about undervolting a robot. But anyway, it is superb. Undervolt, negative. Oh, that's awesome. Negative 75 RAM at 2700. Idles at 20. That is cool. That is really cool. And then especially at 60 Celsius at the maximum, that is some excellent temperatures right there. That is impressive. Yeah, could you imagine that you can see the idle of a robot and everything, see how hot they got? But yeah, so apparently they're going to do that eventually. And that's something that they were always thinking about, I guess. It's something that's going to take time for robots to really take over everything. But I wouldn't be surprised, because as we see cashless registers, eventually that's going to be a thing. Crowds of robots to navigate around in order to walk city streets. It's funny that, I mean, they already have these delivery services. I'm sure you guys seen it, like where you have these Amazon robots like going out into the street, but then you have people flipping them over. Oh yeah, that would be some weight. It makes me think of just like, remember how Terminator was, this big robot? Can you imagine like a robot like that stepping on your foot? How much that would hurt? It would probably break it, to be honest. It's just straight metal. You probably wouldn't have a toe anymore. And so when it comes to RAM, it is also important. You want to get something that's DDR5. You want something that's pretty quick. This is about 6,000 megahertz. It's not the megahertz you're really looking for, but the latency. Latency is really important. I have really good airflow. Be quiet, light base 900, 420 millimeter. Be quiet, silent loop 3. Wow. Yeah, and that's just a new release. I haven't got to see that the Be Quiet silent loop. That's pretty dope. That's pretty amazing. You gotta send your picture into the Discord. If you guys don't know, I do have a Discord channel. It's in the description box. Make sure you follow it. Please send all your builds. I love to see them. I love seeing the creativity that you guys have. You guys certainly have some amazing builds, I gotta say. Corsairs, we ended up getting this on sale. That's why we chose to get Corsairs. We went to go get 6,000 megahertz. This is CL36, but again, we got it for $92.99. We were trying to spend less than $100 because RAM is always upgradable. It's not as complicated as changing out another component when it comes to a PC build. So starting off with this is perfectly fine. You won't notice a big frame difference, especially if you have some decent components, because a lot of the important components come from, say, the GPU, or it comes from that's where you want to start off with when it comes to a PC build. You want to look at what type of GPU that you're using for the build. But let me just show you everything that we have for the build so far, because if you weren't there with us on Micro Center when we were able to pick out the power supply, you'll see what type of power supply we picked for those who haven't seen it. And so it's kind of weird to start off with the RAM, but we have the Corsair Vengeance 6,000 megahertz, and we also have Crucial's P3 Plus right here. And we ended up getting that for $62.99. And we also got AMD's Ryzen 5 9600X. And get this heavy beast here. We got also this LC360 Prime, which is a AIO. B850 Plus motherboard here. And a couple more parts I just got to show to you guys. We have the RX 9070. Definitely excited for this. And Seasonic's 1000 watt power supply. This is a platinum power supply, and that's what we chose with. But this was actually a pretty expensive part, as you see. Fortunately, it wasn't on sale. It's funny because we had a choice. We had to choose, if you weren't part of that stream, we had to choose between Corsairs. I think it was the HX 850, and they had it on sale. It was only $105, but this was $250. So this is nearly double. And why exactly would we do that? Why would we go double? Is because of the power rating. Power rating is quite different between the two. Even though Corsairs was decent, Corsairs was, I think it was a silver rated one. And on top of it, it was the power efficiency wasn't as high, maybe, and the wattage, I didn't get to really take a look at it, but everybody voted, and they ended up deciding to go with the Seasonic one. And we have to respect everybody's opinion, because you know what that means? It means more people choose power efficiency over the cost when it comes to power. So you might spend a little bit more money on the power supply, but it is certainly one that is important when it comes to your PC build. If you don't have a decent power supply, then it's going to give you problems in the future. You don't want your power supply to short. That's one of the worst things that happen. If you've ever had that happen, it sucks because your PC won't turn on. It might turn on. You might see the indication light, but that's it. You'll be nervous and just think automatically what's wrong. And there's actually a really easy way to tell that a power supply is going bad. Sometimes it might be a little bit harder. Some power supplies are real fighters. A machine that I currently have, the PC content creation machine that I have, that power supply is starting to go. And there will be indications, you'll know, because you'll see blinking lights from your GPU, such as the one that I currently have. I would love to show you guys, but the problem is that cord is not long enough to reach over to that PC. If it was, I'd certainly show you guys. But I'll take a picture of it so I can share it in Discord, so you just get an idea. This is on the ASUS. This is ASUS's 3080 Ti that I currently have on the content creation machine. And you'll see indicator lights that it's blinking, so that gives you an indication that there's not enough power going through the card. Also, you'll get some sluggy, it'll be a little bit sluggish when you're doing your task. And I've kind of been really lazy to change out the power supply. And I also want to make a video for you guys on top of it to really let you guys know what to do, especially when it comes to the power supply. Because if you have a power supply that's going bad, you'll have a good idea. You can watch the voltages, but the really best way to tell is through a multimeter. You have to connect it to a ground, check your 12 volts, check your 3 volts. You have to see how much power is going through it. There could be an issue with continuity even, but when it's typically the power supply, a good way to tell if it's not powering on or anything, if you're not getting any type of lights, you can smell right under like the PC. You can smell the power supply and it'll actually have like a burnt smell. If it has that burnt smell, typically that means that power supply is bad. Just get rid of it. And that's a usual indicator. Now it's not, don't worry, it's none of your PC components shorting or anything like that. So you don't have to panic about that. It's more of the power supply shorting itself. And when that shorts, luckily we have fully modular supplies. That's another thing I neglected to mention, is that when it comes to power supplies, they have different models. You have ones that are not modular. You have some that are semi-modular, and you have some that are fully modular. Now, depending on the type of power supply that you choose, you can choose to go fully modular, which most people do. It makes the most sense and the most easiest to deal with, because all you have to do is pull out the cables on the back of the power supply and throw out the old power supply, put in the new one. Much easier. You could go semi-modular where half of it is, say, connected. Say you have only the connection to the ATX and, say, the CPU. And then the rest are modular. That would be semi-modular. And then you have the ones that are fixed where you cannot pull the cable out the back of the power supply. It's just automatically, it's just fixed in there to where you can't disconnect it. You just have to connect all the components like the ATX, the CPU, the PCI Express, or a 12-volt high power port, or whichever ports that you use. Then that would be a fixed scenario. Of course, it's going to be way cheaper if you go fixed. If you ever looked at the fixed power supplies on how cheap they are cheap for a reason. Sure, it's not hard to put in a power supply. It really isn't. But would you really want to deal with the hassle if your power supply does go bad to disconnect everything and rewire everything? Because that would be quite the pain, right? So why not just go fully modular? Even semi-modular is not bad. You have some semi-modulars where only the ATX cable is the one that is fixed. The rest are modular, which is fine. That would be ideal. But you don't want to go too crazy. You don't want to get one where everything is mostly fixed and then some are very little flexibility when it comes to those type of power supplies. So definitely have that type of thought when it comes to it, and really think about that when you do purchase a power supply. Let me take a swig of some cafe. Nothing like some fresh pot of coffee. I want to make more coffee, to be honest. So guys, let me know what you guys think. Feel free to ask any questions about when it comes to PC building. Are you thinking of doing a PC build? Do you have any questions about your PC build? Or do you have any questions about any specifics when it comes, say, to the GPU, or maybe just like the processors or the motherboards? I can certainly help you with it. We all are here to help. Everybody in here in the stream is more than willing to help. We have a wonderful crew. We have a wonderful fan man that is willing to be able to help each other, for sure. Let me see. I'm going to restart this thing here. Perfect. I got one comment. Wow. All right. Apologize for that. I am just reconnecting this. There we go. And I'm going to reset this to this. Perfect. That'll make the most sense. So when it comes to PC building, those are very important. Those components are very important when it comes to your PSU. That is some of the most important parts when it comes to PC building. That's something to take a look at. And it's definitely one of the most underrated parts when it comes to PC building is the PSU. Mostly everything else can come secondary, especially when it comes to your drive. I would say this comes secondary, as long as if you get a decent NVMe with decent PCI Express speeds. It could be even PCI Express 3. It's still going to be relatively quick. PCI Express 4 is now really cheap compared to PCI Express 5. If you've seen the pricing for PCI Express 5, it's just insane. I have a PCI Express 5 NVMe, and I'm telling you, you won't really see the difference between this. You won't see the difference unless you are doing some sort of filming or editing or anything like that. Then you'll notice it, but you won't notice it when it comes to gaming, because when it comes to gaming, these speeds are going to be good enough because we don't have DirectX storage. We don't have direct storage just yet. And until we do, then they can really take advantage of those speeds. If we don't have that, we're never going to take advantage of these type of speeds for when it comes to gaming. It would be nice, but it's going to be some time before we actually see that. It might be several years. By then, PCI Express 6 might come out, to be honest. They already have PCI Express 7 speeds. Now, typically every generation when it comes to that, when it comes to say 5 to 6, it usually doubles. Yeah, exactly. That's the only time where it can be really useful. And that's the only time it can really be useful when it comes to transferring between drives. Even then, like editing, it's very little that you see. And I hardly touch that system for editing. And this system's more where what I'm using it for now, which is going to be really just gaming and streaming. My other system, my content creation machine, I usually use that for more, which is a Threadripper with a RTX 3080 Ti. It was really good for the time, but man, Threadripper just got insanely expensive. Like if you see the prices for it, when we were at Micro Center the other day, the Threadripper, this was the high end one. It was insane. It was like $9,800 for that processor. I was stunned how fast it moved my Steam games off the system drive to the storage, Dave says. Yeah, it certainly can. It can certainly transfer between speeds very quickly when it comes to that. It saves a ton of time. That's great when you're on the move too, especially when it comes to Steam. And let me go on internet providers real quick because I got to talk to you about that. I always recommend fiber optics. The reason why I recommend fiber optics is because you're going to get the speeds that you need, especially when it comes to gaming. Most people think that the download speeds are important, but really what the most important part, and this is also important when it comes to streaming as well, is that the upload speeds have to be high. Now, say you have 1 gigabit connection, right? You have 1 gigabit download speeds. But do you think it's really sufficient enough to have 30 or 60 gigabits of upload speeds? No, you have to have close to equal speeds at least. You have to have 1 gigabit of download and 1 gigabit upload. Reason being is because most of the things that we do now are actually uploads. Just like this very stream is an upload. When it comes to gaming, you're actually uploading your data into the server, but you're also downloading as well. So you want to get fiber optics. And again, this is just me kind of beefing too with Comcast or Xfinity, however you would like to call them. Their service is just garbage because I'll have 1 gigabit. I have a 1 gigabit download speed and probably like a 30 to 40 gigabit upload speed. And unfortunately, I can't get out of them. There's no other company around that offers fiber optics just quite yet. And that's certainly what I'm waiting for. Go AT&T Fiber, go T-Mobile Fiber, go Verizon Fios, go to any of those type of providers. They're way better because if you're going to get high upload speeds and everything, definitely go that way, because when you upload your content or when you upload your streams, you want a steady flow. You don't want the BS that Xfinity gives you, because if they and just get away from them fast as you can if you are with them. I would suggest going AT&T, again, T-Mobile, even Google has fiber. Even Verizon Fios is really good. That's what I miss most, Verizon Fios. They were so good. So Miles had a question. He said, will my 10700K bottleneck at a RTX 3070? No, it should be pretty good with the 3070. That's not that bad. Now, if you go a little bit higher, once you go to the 40 series, then yes, you can expect bottlenecking. It's not going to be that crazy, Miles. So if you have an RTX 3070, definitely go with it. This is off of YouTube for those on TikTok who I'm wondering. If you're wondering who I am talking to, and if you're unfamiliar with who I am, I'm Chris Mizo. I talk about PC and tech. Feel free to throw any questions. I do talk to the chat, so don't worry about it. I definitely do, whether it's on YouTube, Twitch, or if it's on TikTok here. Now I'm new to TikTok, so I'm just streaming off my phone and the camera. For those who are curious on YouTube, say hello to each other. It's a mess back there, right? But the funny thing is, speaking of PC builds, you don't have to spend a ton of money. You don't have to spend $4,000 on a GPU. You don't have to get a RTX 5090. It's definitely over capable of what it is. And most people are not going to take advantage of those speeds. Plus, you don't have the capabilities of DirectX 9 anymore, or you don't have the PhysX capabilities as well. So you don't have those capabilities, and you could easily get them from something even like RX 9070 XT, which is tremendously cheaper. It's nearly it is three times cheaper than a RTX 5090. Originally, it seemed like it was a good, not really a great deal, but they said $2,000 for the RTX 5090. But of course, with AIB charges on top of it, it's always gonna be more expensive because of it. And that's just the unfortunate thing when it comes to PC building. You have to really be careful when it comes to cost. You want to pay attention when it comes to what you want to do when you have a PC build is focus on the GPU first. Know the type of GPU that you want to get first. What type of games will you play? Whatever games that you choose to play, what are your most often or games that your go-to games, just write them down. And that way you have an idea of what exactly you need. Then take a look at the recommendations. Then you will have an idea of what type of GPU that you'll need. For example, you say you play something like Black Ops 6 pretty often, right? You want to write that down as your most go-to game. When you look at that game, see what it requires. What type of graphics card does it require? What are the maximum specifications for Black Ops 6, just say, if you want to go really bold. Now, when you compare that, then you have a general idea of what type of GPU that you want. Also go off with some higher graphical games. Say you play games like Kingdom Come 2, you want to take a look at it and get an idea off of that too. Now, with Kingdom Come 2, again, you don't have to go maximum settings because that's not a game that you're always going to go to. It would be nice the game at maximum settings if you can, but you want to go to the required specifications. Minimum specifications you can look at, and you can also look at, they have 5 different ones now. Before it used to be so simple. It had 2 different charts where it was either minimum or recommended. That was it. But look at the recommended, and so that way you have an idea of what you would need for your PC build. Now, most PC builds are going to require at least a 30 series. And why not get something that is a little bit more up to date, which is why I always recommend just getting AMD's RX 9070 XT would not necessarily be a bad thing. It's a really good card and well underrated. You're going to have people out there that are going to throw AMD under the bus because they're going to say, oh, they're not really that great, but actually they've come up. They are decent cards now. I can expect the AMD, when AMD comes out next year with more cards, just say, I wouldn't be surprised if they have a secret in the works where they have a 9080 that's going to eventually be released maybe next year. But I'm not saying it will, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are planning it, because they certainly are capable of competing with NVIDIA now, especially when it comes to pricing. If they can compete with the pricing, that would certainly do it. But AMD, what they shouldn't do, and what I wouldn't recommend AMD to do, is to go back down. I wouldn't recommend AMD to go down to a 9060 with 8 gigabytes of memory, of VRAM, of DDR6. It wouldn't make any sense. And it's just going to devalue their card. It's really a waste. Nobody's going to want to purchase the card. It's for that, at that point, you might purchase that card, say, if you're going to use it for direct X9 or PhysX games. If you have an RTX 50 series, then it would make sense. But even then, it's just a waste of money for a card such as that. And so I'll show you a GPU, for example, here, such as the RX 9070 XT, something I highly recommend, Sapphire. This is the Sapphire Nitro Plus, one of their top tier cards. And again, you spend well under $1,000 for this card. So you don't have to spend a ton of money when you purchase a GPU. You can just go ahead and go with something like this. And that's probably going to be the most expensive part when it comes to your PC build. What you really want to look for is a decent GPU such as this. And more than likely, it will perform the games that you would like. Whether it's 4K, whether it's 1080p, whether it's on ultrawide such as 1440p, something like this will certainly suffice. And you'll end up being a lot more happy, and it has a ton of features that a lot of people love. They actually have 4 ports on the back of this. They have 2 display ports, and they have 2 HDMI ports, which is what's really good about this card. The clock speeds are excellent, 3.06 gigahertz at boost, and at 2.7 gigahertz when it is during regular clock. It is 16 gigabytes of G6 on a 256-bit bus. So it's a card that you certainly have to not really wonder about. It's a card where it has high capabilities that you can take full advantage of. And this is what you would base your build off of, whatever GPU you would select. So the GPU that we selected, if you were doing it the right way, is go off of the GPU first. That's the most important component. Then you'll have an idea or general idea of what type of motherboard you need and what type of CPU you need. So the motherboard that we got is the B850 ASUS B850 Plus Wi-Fi, and this is a very good board. You don't have to spend $1,000 on a board. You don't have to spend $1,100, $1,200. That's just insane. Unless you are overclocking, then it would make sense. Are you trying to break records? That is the question. Are you going to water cool and try to break temperature records? Are you trying to break speed records? Then get that $1,100 board. That would make sense. But if you're just gaming, honestly, if you're just gaming, even if you're doing a little bit of overclocking, this is honestly good enough. And this is just over $200. And this is the Tough Gaming B850 Plus Wi-Fi. It also has Wi-Fi 7, which is a very nice capability that it also has. It does have USB-C, and if you're curious about that, and it does have a 2.5 gigabit connection. And if you're curious, especially when it comes to a lot of the newer boards, because this was a problem that a lot of people had with the X870Es. If you're using up a PCIe Express 5 slot for NVMe, will it take away power from the PCI Express 5? And the answer for this board is it will not. So with my undervolt, Viali says, his 9070 can reach speeds of up to 3.4 gigahertz. That is insane. That is excellent. And if you have a RX 9070 XT, they are a lot more capable, and the temperatures are excellent. Just like as Viali was saying, he hasn't seen his temperatures go above 60 degrees Celsius. You're easily going to do that on a RTX card. On any RTX 40 or RTX 50, you'll run into that issue where it will go up higher. But those are normal temperatures for a RTX card because you're pushing so much wattage. Speaking of the RX 9070, the minimum of power requirement for that card is 750 watts. So you have an idea of what type of power supply that you're looking for. You want to go a little bit above it. You want to go 850 watts, or you want to go to up to 1,000 watts. And then that way you can secure your build because you're always going to end up upgrading components in the future. So it's a good idea to do that. Make sure to get a power supply that is strong enough and more capable so that way you can always end up upgrading it in the future. So again, the ASUS B850 is also a great option. And the best part is it does offer a lot of neat features such as Q latches, and even the antenna is Q latch. So that's something to really think about and take advantage of. Also, let me just adjust the camera here so that way I'm not squeezed up on the table. So don't mind my hand. There we go. See me better right now? So now getting back over onto topic here. Such as we went over the graphics card already when we went over the motherboard. Now, if you're thinking of CPU wise, hey, what's up, Mike? AORUS Master or Astral 5090? Excellent question. My personal opinion, I would go AORUS Master. Astral 5090 is great and everything, but it does have 4 fans. More fans make it a lot more noisy. And also, the other issue too is my personal experience. I can't speak for the AORUS. I can't speak, not for AORUS, but I can't speak for Astral 5090. I can't say I've never used a card. Let me let you guys know that first. But I can say that when I've experienced from ASUS's GPUs, I do experience some coil whine. You can hear coil whine, which can be quite annoying. If you've never heard it, it's kind of like a high buzzing sound. So I would say go with AORUS Master. With Gigabyte's cards, I have never experienced those issues. So I would say go Gigabyte AORUS Master. Like, that would be my answer. So for the processor wise, I have the AMD Ryzen 5 9600X. Not expensive. You don't have to get a 9800X 3D. Sure, it's very capable at gaming. 9800X 3D. It's the best. It's one of the best that you can get when it comes to processors in gaming. So you don't have to get it because that's double the price of this. Now, if you're to get a processor to start off with, this is great too. It's only a little bit over $200 to get a processor such as this. And you'll be off to a great start when it comes to your PC build. Because especially if you're just gaming, a 9600X might satisfy your needs. You might not need anything more than a 9600X. If you do need something more, if you play other games that require a little bit more power, just go a little higher. You can go 9800X. You can go X3D if you have the budget to in the future to do so. Eventually, maybe they'll come out with the 9600X 3D, which would be really nice. And that would be a great beneficial feature for everybody out there because a lot of games will only require at least single core processing. So also, not only the processor that you have to look for, it's also important to look for the RAM. And when you choose to pick out your RAM, you want to get something like a decent set. DDR5, you want it set for your PC build, such as currently this is for AMD, right? So if you see for AMD when it comes to their RAM, that means it has Expo. And if you're not familiar what Expo is, it's a profile that's in your BIOS. Expo are kind of preset configurations for your PC to where you can automatically overclock it instead of fiddling with settings like how it was back then, where you had to kind of figure out the different speeds and everything like that in order for you to overclock your RAM. You don't have to do that anymore. Expo profiles do that for you, and a lot of motherboards do, such as the ASUS Tough Gaming Plus motherboard. If you go into that profile, you have the option of Expo 1, Expo 2, you have AMD on the fly, you have AMD tweaked, You have all kinds of different settings that you can choose to go to, but you play with the settings, figure out what works with you with the best. Personally for me, I like to go Expo 2 as it fits for the parameters of your ASUS motherboard, whatever components that you have, plus your Corsair RAM. And also it's always recommended to go always turn on your PBO. Definitely turn on your PBO. You don't want to run it stock. I mean, the ROG Strix 4090 was godlike. I've never heard bad things about the Astral. And it's such a shame because I thought ASUS was the Bentley of GPUs. ASUS is excellent. I'll tell you right now, I don't have a problem with their performance. Now, if you were to compare performance-wise, it might outperform Gigabytes for sure, but it depends if you're trying to look for a little bit more, if you want it to be more quiet, or if you want it to be, or if you care more about speeds, because it's like you have to choose one or the other. So if you guys on TikTok, you're not sure who I'm talking to Mike on YouTube. And this question was, would you pick a 4090, not 4090, a Astral 5090, or would you choose a AORUS Master 5090? Which one would you choose? Let me know in the chat if you have a voice you want to mention. But personally, in my opinion, I feel that AORUS Master is the better way to go. They've been great. You can overclock them. They're quiet, and I've never had any issues. And again, if you choose to go ASUS Astral, there's nothing wrong with it. The good thing about ASUS's 5090, I gotta say, is that say if you plug in a 12-volt high power port, and if it's not plugged in all the way, it will let you know. It'll actually have a safety precaution. It will also let you know if it is getting too hot. It will give you a notification. So it will prevent you from any further component damage. Because if you haven't heard with the RTX 50 series, such as the 5090, they will run into these issues where it would get too hot. Now, mostly a lot of that conspired from cable mods, or came from Cable DIY, and these are companies where they're third party to a power supply. When you connect them, all power supplies have a certain rating and a certain gauge when it comes to their cables. There might be it might be too much resistance, which causes the shorting, and if that's the case, then it's going to melt the cable, such as the pictures that you've seen. Now, Gigabyte's engineers have seen this, and they feel that the 12-volt high power port, you're pushing way too much wattage through it, where it's 525 watts going to a RTX 5090 compared to where they should rate it closer to 325. That's why the big rumor with the 5090 was that there was going to be two 12-volt high power ports, but it never came out to be that way. Instead, they just came out with one connector for it. And hopefully, I wouldn't be surprised though, within the next year, for the 2026, I wouldn't be surprised if they came out with a dual 12-volt high power port, or a dual 12-volt 2x16, if you would like it to call it. But I feel like it's a lot of words to say too. Either one, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out with dual ports eventually, because then they can split the power, less likely to run into issues. But luckily, it's been quiet, actually. There's not a lot of news on it, which is a good thing. It seems like they worked out a lot of different issues that people were having with it. Originally, there was a big rumor that NVIDIA recalled the RTX 5090s because of heat issues, that it was reaching as high as 150 degrees Celsius, but people say it was a rumor. I honestly think they made it sound like a rumor, but in my opinion, again, they should have released a lot of 5090s within a week ago about. There should have been way more in the store. Enough to where anybody can walk into a Micro Center or go into a Best Buy and be able to purchase a RTX 5090. But we still have a short issue. So because of this short issue, it makes me, what's up, Mythico? Morning. But it makes me expect that this wasn't a rumor, that this was not false, that it did happen to where they had a recall so they can redistribute the cards properly. Because again, we're into March already, and they were supposed to release it last week, like a lot, to the point where it would flood the markets, but There's nothing. There's still very little RTX 5090s. They're trickling out a little bit more and more, but not that much. So I highly recommend to really think about what type of RTX 5090 card that you choose to get if you choose to go that route. Make sure you have the correct power rating, because the minimal power rating you need for a RTX 5090 is at least 1000 watts. So you know what that means? You don't get a 1000 watt power supply. You have to get 1200 or maybe 1500 watt power supply in order to help keep power to that card. If you do, then you'll be good to go. Also, you want to be able to monitor. The driver issues are non-existent at this point, I believe. I don't think there's any more of it. Recently, I actually ran into those issues to where I had the blacked out screens, where any time I updated NVIDIA's drivers, my screen would black out. But it was only the prior two drivers. The hot fixes, no issues. A lot of people, there was actually one guy that on X, he was saying that, oh, maybe it's at JW Cruise, I have, Viali. Okay, so Viali just mentioned at JW Cruise, I have the ASUS Crosshair X870E Hero. And with the Ryzen 9 9900X solid motherboard, I know expensive, but it is brilliant. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you did go with the Crosshair X870E. I personally love that board. If you guys don't know what the X870E looks like, this is going to be on my TikTok. It's going to be a little bit harder for me to show it on the live broadcast here on YouTube and Twitch, but I know maybe you guys can see it if I reflect it off. But that build right behind there is the X870E build, and yeah, definitely great motherboard. Definitely one of my favorites from ASUS. Wonderfully designed, especially with the Q releases. I love it for that. I appreciate the information, brother. But another question I have is, do you think I should upgrade to the ASUS Hero X870E or keep my ASUS Crosshair Hero X670E as I upgrade it to the 5090? Honestly, keep the keep the X670E. It's not going to be that much different. If you have an X670E, it's there's no real change between the two. I have both, I can tell you. I actually have an X670E. It's in my closet actually, but I do have an X670E and the X870E. The difference is very minimal. So keep the X670E, save your money, because who knows, within next year you might want to do something different when it comes to your PC build, or get some more components. Get a nice mouse. You could definitely get better things than just the motherboard for sure. Or upgrade the SSD, get bigger capacity, because who doesn't love more storage, honestly? So if you have a ASUS Crosshair X670E Hero and a ASUS Crosshair X870E Hero, again, minimal difference. You have 10 gigabit speed versus 2.5 gigabit speed. That doesn't matter as much. You can always put an adapter in there through your PCI Express slot, so you don't really have to upgrade a whole board for that. And also, the only other difference is just the Q releases. That's it. Everything else is mostly the same. Audio is actually really good in the X670E. I think it's actually a little bit better on there compared to the X870E. So I can tell you those are the key differences. Other than that, mostly the same. And the USB-C connections are even mostly the same for the most part as well. You have a decent selection, especially when you look at the back of your I/O plate. There's definitely plenty of USB-C connections for that motherboard. So I would say stick X670E mic. Also, another thing, speaking of speeds, when it comes to the P3, when it comes to Crucial, you don't have to get PCI Express 5 NVMEs. We were discussing this just a bit earlier, but just to let you guys know, you can really get away with going with speeds such as this with a Crucial PCI Express E. My words are getting all mixed up. You can get away with a PCI Express 4 SSD, and it will perform exactly the same as PCI Express. PCI Express. Oh, my words need a little coffee here. it will perform exactly the same compared to a PCI Express 5 NVMe. And this was brought up actually a little bit earlier. We were talking about it. I think it was Dave that brought it up. Dave brought up that the speeds are not that much different. The biggest notice that you'll notice is the transfer speeds. Say if you transfer games off of Steam into your other SSD, which is PCI Express 5, they are also really good. And I would suggest that definitely take advantage of getting a lower cost NVMe if you can. So I would say go Crucial. Go with there's a ton of companies out there. You have Corsair that makes them. I only upgraded to the AM5 because my Crosshair Extreme X570E had faults. I agree. If you're going to AM5, that is a large difference over. That is a large difference compared to the X670E. Hi, Run. Welcome to the chat. And so again, the difference between the X570E, as he mentioned, is a different motherboard type. So that's AM4. He's going from AM4 to AM5, which is a big difference. And he upgraded to a very good generation, especially for the fact that now he's into DDR5, PCI Express 5. There's a lot of key differences coming from AM4 to AM5. So that's going to be very noticeable, especially when you jump from one to the other. There's going to be different components you have to change out, and you'll notice a significant difference when it comes to when it comes to speed and when it comes to the type of components that you really use for it. Another thing too I have to bring up here is the power supply here, and it is heavy. This is super efficient, and you want to look for the correct power supply rating, which is this right here in the back of it. You can see where it says that it is platinum, and this makes a large difference here. This makes a large difference here because you can see the chart back here, which is more about power efficiency. And when it's about power efficiency, it can save you money in the long run when it comes to your electric bill. It's going to save you 95% energy until you hit about 90 to 100%. Then it saves you about 90% power efficient. That's a large difference, say, to something that is a bronze. And when you compare it to a PSU to a bronze one, then it's going to be about only 80% power efficient. And when you're at maximum loads, it might be even worse. And if I pull up a chart, I can certainly show you guys exactly what I mean. And another thing you want to look for too is if the power supply is modular, because what that means is you can actually pull out the wires in the back of the power supply and that they are not fixed. When they are not fixed, then you have more of the flexibility to do what you want with the power supply. Even if it goes bad, you just have to disconnect the harness and then you can easily replug it. But you can always make sure to check your cables. You can check for a break in the cables, and in order to do that, you want to check the resistance. So you can do like a loop test to see if the cables are any good. And to do that, you just need a multimeter. So Viali says there is a huge difference between the 5900X to the 9900X. The system is so much more responsive. It certainly is. I'm sure it's a lot more responsive compared to what AM4 offers. It's a big generational leap, and I'm sure it's a large improvement when it comes to gaming for sure. And let me see. Also, CPU cooler is also important. You want to keep your CPU nice and cool. You want to keep your PC from throttling. You need to have good components such as a cooler. Now, this cooler, this is the Prime LC 360A RGB LCD. It features up to a 2.3-inch LCD, fully customizable. And it has stats and everything that you can monitor your system with, different speeds. It was something, luckily ASUS was able to get that part to us, but if you were to purchase it, it's only 150 USD. So just to let you guys all know, the only two parts that I received from a company was ASUS's motherboard here, which is a DB850, and I did receive the cooler from ASUS. So those are the only two parts. The rest was all shopped with the FanBam at Micro Center. We all decided what type of components to get. So anytime I go to Micro Center or I go to any store, I make sure to live stream it so everyone can join in and share their thoughts and see exactly what type of components that we can get in order to do that. So that way we kind of have a build from the FanBam. Really, all these components that I have here are all selected from the FanBam. So this is really their build. So make sure to tune in for more lives as I do take you guys out, and let me know if you want to see anything more. Also, Mike, currently I have the MSI Meg 1300 watt ATX 3.0 PSU, and I want to get MSI's Meg 1300 watt or 1600 ATX 3.1 PSU. Would I have to change the cables, or can I just keep the old ones and plug them into the new PSU? That's a great question, actually. So Mike was just asking, is there a large difference between the two? Is there a large difference between ATX 3 and ATX 3.1? Actually, you don't have to really change out. The only cable I would probably change out is the 12 volt high power port. They're a little bit different. The prongs are a little bit different, slightly. It's a little bit shorter and a little bit longer on certain ends. There's a great write-up on Corsair by it. I think I have it on my X page. You could check it out, and which they mention it. There's only a slight difference between the prongs. And so I would highly suggest just to change that out. The rest can stay exactly the same. That's the only one you would have to change out, Mike. So if you choose to go ATX 3.1, you could do that. But again, Mike, you don't even have to do that. I would... honestly, if I were you, so if you have 1300 watts, I would say you're probably more than good enough, to be honest. Again, your system is quite a beast as it is, Mike. Definitely a beast. So I wouldn't even upgrade the even the power supply. Again, I would focus more on capacity, maybe RAM, because your power supply is definitely sufficient enough, I believe, for your system. Or just share your specs. Let me know what you have. Maybe you have more things than I realize, and then I can definitely tell you. But so just feel free to ask any questions at this moment. Feel free to ask anything you would like. I would certainly like to help you guys that are looking to do a PC build, or ask me anything you would like. If you want to know about me personally, I'm willing to share with you guys. What a morning. Next time I'll make sure, because right now what I have on my live stream, I'll show you guys on TikTok. I have right now it's on a gimbal right here. So let me see here. Right now it's on a gimbal here. So I had to charge it up, right? And I had to make sure the firmware was up to date. So that was acting up this morning. And then I had to make sure the camera was all good. The battery ended up dying during the stream, which is crazy. All because I didn't use the USB-C with the power delivery onto the PC. So that gave me issues. So it's been quite the morning when it came to live. What a disastrous morning. So guys, feel free to ask any questions. Let me know. Ask me anything. I would love to hear you guys. So this is a perfect time, an AMA moment. If you're liking the stream so far, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Would love to hear from you. And you can ask through Twitch, YouTube, or TikTok. Doesn't matter. I will talk to the chat. So, as I mentioned, I was just going through the components. If you're wondering what I'm building so far, or if you're unfamiliar with who I am, I'm Chris Muzo. This channel is about PCs and tech. So this is what we talk about. We love PCs and tech. So make sure to join this channel if you haven't already. Join the Discord. The Discord channel's in my description box. Unfortunately, on TikTok, I can't, share anything like that. So make sure you go into my Discord channel and make sure to join, share all your PC components. Would love to see it. And make sure to join the giveaway if you're not part of the giveaway. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, there is a giveaway going on. It ends by the end of the month, which I'm giving away this Samsung 990 Pro NVMe. And you can be a lucky winner to win one. All you have to do is click the link for the giveaway, or you can win some merch, such as this hat here. And you can also win some merch. It's going to be tees and all kinds of stuff. So make sure to join the giveaway. It's going to be linked on my live on YouTube. On Twitch, I don't think it's on there as well because, again, you can't really link anything like that. So, fam guys, I want to thank you guys so much for joining in the stream. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you are enjoying it, or make sure you give a big heart. And I will be closing up this stream. Thank you guys again so much for watching. And I gotta say, I gotta enjoy this coffee here and try to wake back up here. Let's see. All right. Let me see here, guys. Oh, crazy. Oh, that's funny. No wonder why. Thank you guys again so much for joining the chat. Make sure you join the Discord. Make sure you follow the channel. Make sure you are part of the fan bam for more exclusives. We'll do more lives on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Thank you guys, and I love you all.